In this video, we will cover some important basic information about this lab number 1 in terms of how to define your variables, where to find important information needed for this lab, and how to save your SPSS database file. Before you begin using SPSS to determine your variables for this lab, review the materials in the SPSS Lab number 1 folder. You must read the case scenario carefully so you understand the social work practice situation in this lab, as well as which questions you must answer, which are located at the end of this case scenario. You will also need your data, and since this is a mock research study, your participant surveys have already been completed and are also found in the SPSS Lab number 1 folder. You can either print these completed surveys out or have them open in a window as you are entering participant data into the Data View tab once you have finished defining your variables. You must refer to the completed parent survey to see all the survey items you must define in the Variable View tab in SPSS. On your computer, go to All Programs. Not all student computer labs have SPSS software. See the document, Student Labs with SPSS PASW software on Blackboard in the SPSS Labs tab. Click on SPSS or PASW, which might be in either a folder labeled SPSS or IBM. Once you open the program, click Type in Data, then OK. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see two options, Data View and Variable View. You must first define your variables before entering data. You must define your variables in the Variable View window. Click on Variable View. You should see this screen. Each variable you define will get its own row of details. The very first variable you should always define is the participant ID number. Remember, the first variable you always want to define is the participant ID number. On your completed parent surveys, you can find each participant ID number written on the upper right-hand corner of the completed surveys. Click in the first cell next to the number 1, which means first variable. Type in ID. Make sure there are no spaces between characters, or SPSS will tell you that you've made an error. Under Type, leave the default to numeric. Under Decimals, click in the box and scroll down to 0, or just type in 0. In the label box, this is the longhand explanation of the ID. so type in participant ID. Under Measures, click in the cell and scroll down to Scale. Under Role, scroll down to None. Leave all other cells with their default settings for participant ID. Now, starting on row 2, enter the first variable, the first item on the survey. Remember, what you type under Name should be a shorthand code for a shorthand code word for that item. Remember, no spaces, and must be all letters or a combo of letters and numbers, no longer than 8 characters. For example, if the first item on a survey asks participants to indicate the number of children, your name might be NUMKIDS. You should apply your new knowledge about SPSS from the Introduction to SPSS for Defining Variables lecture in order to define each parent survey item as a variable in SPSS. You will notice there are a variety of items on the survey, and they are asked in a variety of ways, capturing a variety of levels of measurement. Again, you must apply the knowledge you gained in Introduction to SPSS for Defining Variables to enter each item into SPSS. Once you have defined at least one variable, be sure to click File, then Save As, and save to your desktop computer. As discussed previously, SPSS sometimes freezes intermittently, and you don't want to lose large amounts of unsaved work. After you save as, then remember to click Save periodically. You should save as to your computer in a specific way. For example, if your name was Gary Smith and you have created your Lab Number 1 database, save as Gary Smith _lab1.sav. This is how you will email your data file to me for each lab. Once you have defined all your variables, click Data View at the bottom of the screen and begin entering your data from the completed parent surveys. Each participant should have their own data entered into the screen, and each participant's information will be entered on a row. Please note that it is not necessary to enter participants in order of ascending or descending ID numbers. The important thing is that all participants' information is entered. Again, after each participant's data has been entered, make sure you hit Save, because sometimes SPSS will freeze and close and you don't want to lose all the data that you've entered. Whenever you hit Save, an output hiccup will occur. You will see the image at the top of the slide. Close it out. When you try to close it out, a pop-up will ask you if you want to save contents of Output Viewer to Output 1. Click No. The only output you need to save comes after you have entered all your data and have run your analysis. Your output is a screen that will give you all of your results. This will be discussed in the SPSS Instructions Analyzing Descriptive Statistics instructional video, also located in the SPSS Lab Number 1 tab in Blackboard. Every time you work on your SPSS data file, it's always best to email yourself the file. Sometimes students try and save the file on their jump drive. However, those can sometimes get lost. Emailing yourself a copy of your work is always a sure bet that you won't lose your work, and it won't be corrupted by saving from one format to the next. If you email yourself a copy of this SPSS data file, it's important to remember that if you try to open it up from a computer that doesn't have the SPSS program, you will not be able to open it. The only time an SPSS file will open is on a computer that has the program. If you saved your data file and try to reopen it on a computer with SPSS, but you don't see any of your data, no worries. Click on the Open Folder icon and locate your data file. Make sure that under Files of Type it says PASW Statistics. That will tell the computer to allow you to open this kind of SPSS file. Click on the file and then hit Open. Here are a few SPSS reminders. Remember to email yourself your database so that you always have a backup copy. Remember that even if you email it to yourself, the only computer you can open an SPSS file on is a computer with SPSS software. Once all your data is entered, scroll through the data view screen to check for any possible typos that you've missed. If you made a mistake, use the participant's ID to find the specific survey to make corrections. Always remember to hit save periodically, as SPSS has a tendency to freeze and quit while you're in the middle of working on entering your data. This concludes the instructions regarding how to define your variables for Lab 1. Remember to read the case scenario first, and refer to the completed parent surveys as a template for defining your variables in the Variable View tab and entering your data into the Data View tab.